Welcome, everyone. My name is Naomi Tańska, and I'm a Senior Market Manager for Europe at the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants, representing AICPA and CIMA. It is my pleasure to be your host this afternoon. Please be aware that this meeting is being recorded, and if you have any questions, enter them into the Q&A box. We will answer them during the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Today's webinar will focus on the skills of the future, strategy, evaluation, and value creation. The first speech will be delivered by Mr. Ash Noah, CPA, Cgma, FCMA VP, and Managing Director of Cgma Learning, Education, and Development at the Association. He will talk about the skills of the future in a post-pandemic world and the mindsets required for the next normal. Our second speaker and the main speech today will be delivered by Mrs. Astrid Zakrzewska, FCCA, Cgma, FCMA. She's an experienced trainer working closely with the Association and PwC's Academy. The event is co-organized by PwC's Academy, and before we start, let's hear from them. I would like to invite Mrs. Katarzyna Szas-Krzyżanowska, Manager of PwC's Academy in Poland, and Mrs. Denisa Panaite-Kashu, Manager of PwC's Academy in Romania.
Hello, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here. I am the manager of PwC's Academy in Poland. I've been with the Academy for 10 years now, and from the very beginning, I've been coordinating and now managing various CIMA training projects, now focusing on the key special programs like the CIMA CFO program, about which I will have the pleasure to tell you in a little bit more detail later on. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. As I've been introduced, I am Denisa Panaite-Kashu. I've been with PwC's Academy for 4 years now. Previously, I've been acting for 20 years in learning and development, either as a management development consultant or as an internal L&D manager. And the reason why I'm here is because we have an increased interest in our market for the CIMA CFO program. And I'm really excited to find out what you have in store for us.
Thank you, ladies. Now's the time for our first speaker. Ash, the floor is yours.
Hello, can you see my screen all right?
Yes, yes.
Just checking. Okay, brilliant. Well, good afternoon, and it is a delight to be with you all. I really appreciate you taking the time to invest in yourself, and while you're investing in yourself, you're also investing in your organizations, and you're investing in the people that are a part of your teams. We really are facing a future which is rather up and down and very uncertain. VUCA is overused, it is volatile, it is uncertain, it is complex, it is ambiguous. And in the midst of all of this, my role is to make sure that we navigate the future with the Cgma, the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants designation, the qualification that I design, develop, and deliver, to really focus on the right skill sets, and that the professionals that are coming through this program are relevant to the organizations. So I just want to talk about some real accelerated shifts and what we must be doing and what we must really be having our eyes on if we want to remain relevant, if we want to become those value creators in our organizations. There are some significant shifts. Cyber alerts and cybersecurity is at a high. We all have seen significant activity there. CFOs have to have their eyes on it. Supply chain is on everybody's lips, including on the other side, you see inflation. It's rising, it's becoming bigger. The ESG and the broader business reporting, the corporate reporting environment is in a big flux. There are standards and frameworks and TCFD and SASBs and all of these organizations that want to ensure that organizations are responsible citizens. We have changing business models, which have been again, accelerated because of technology. We've seen the corona pandemic really, it has brought us to 2025 in many ways already. And so we're dealing with that rapid technology rollout and all the learning that has to go with it. We are worried about our staff, their well-being. And one of the things that is emerging here in the US, and I'm sure it's affecting the rest of the world, because the great resignation, the number of people who will be changing jobs, the number of people who will be leaving your teams, your companies, is unprecedented. And we need to really, as finance leaders, be absolutely aware of that and make sure we're taking steps to retain our talent. It's getting more and more challenging. The intangible value continues to increase rapidly. If we are only P&L accountants and balance sheet accountants, and we've got control of all of that, and we're really participating in the tangible value creation, you're only participating in 10% of it. The 90% of that value is outside of what we typically deal with in finance. So it is absolutely critically important that we get involved in other areas of the business which are creating value, which are generating value, which are things like your intellectual property of being able to execute your strategic plan, being able to bring in a culture of disruption and really disrupting yourselves, disrupting the marketplace, a culture of collaboration and execution. These things are intangible. You're using intangible social capital. You're creating intangible social capital that allows your organization to operate. So the enterprise value of your organization is not in the P&L and balance sheet. Part of it is future cash flows come from the P&L, yes, but there are many other factors that you need to be looking at to make sure you're participating in that value creation. Just talking about in the context of the role of finance, which continues to expand, which continues to evolve, what we're seeing is the traditional role of collating information, curating them into reports, providing the insights and communicating them to your business partners, which what used to be called business partnering. That is going to be done automatically. There are auto dashboards, self-service, and all that information is on the fingertips of your organization. Data is democratized. And so that business partnering role is changing into value partnering. And value partnering is about taking those insights and making decisions around allocation of capital, allocation of resources, what is the best use of the resources of your company, and collaborating with the rest of the company, influencing them with your insights, and ultimately co-creating value is where value partnering is going. And so if we are living in the paradigm of business partnering, we need to shift gears. So it's the whole concept of the navigator in a plane only provides the information, keeps oversight and overview of the systems, but doesn't actually fly the plane. But a co-pilot is flying the business alongside the other C-suite executives, alongside the CEO. You need to be co-piloting, and that in itself brings about a gap, and that gap is needed to be addressed. I'll talk very quickly in the next few minutes about these skills that we are all hearing from everywhere around technology, being able to think more strategically, communicate more effectively, provide a level of customer services which wows the customer, provides the customer with new options, with new ways of servicing them. Ultimately, that powers the business growth. And it's all about partnering, not just within your organization, but partnering on platforms outside of the organization. So what's happening to the organization structure? The organization structure within finance is not the traditional triangle. It's now more of a diamond shape. There's less and less people required in core accounting operations, only between 10 and 20%. The maximum number of people are required in the middle, where they are making decisions, supporting decisions, analyzing, providing directional guidance to the business, and also providing some compliance and control and effective governance over the business. And this is the layer where everything is coming to a point where you're really dealing with a business, you're business partnering, and you're moving into the stages of value partnering. And then at the top, you have the leaders that really have their focus on value creation. So 10% on the top, 10% on the bottom, about 80% in the middle. That's how organizations are tracking. There's a big population of problem solvers being created in that middle layer. These are the people who are truly taking business issues, analyzing them, and solving those problems. So in this new world, in this new organization, what are the kind of mindsets that we require? I'll start off at the bottom and work my way towards the top, right? So fundamentally, we all need an agile mindset. And agile, yes, I'm talking about agile technology, but I'm not talking about software development. I'm talking about a mindset that takes the agile methodology, but adopts it. We are all professionals who've been trained in linear processes, logical processes, and sequential outcomes. We need to have a more agile mindset. We need to be looking at not just building the car one piece at a time, but building something that works very quickly and gets you moving very quickly. We need to have that kind of a mindset. And that is, I'm saying from experience as a former CFO, that is a big mind shift. You need to expose the agile processes, the agile methodology to finance populations so that we can be quickly up and running and testing and learning and creating the final outcome as we go along. We need to have an automation mindset. There is still significant opportunities to automate, right from your general accounting all the way up to tax and treasury. There are opportunities to automate, opportunities to apply machine learning, AI, etc., to produce more accurate results, but also produce them more quickly. The need for data analytics and having an analytics mindset is absolutely critical, is quite foundational actually, because what's happened is we used to have a lot of accounting data, some finance data, and we used to participate in a little bit of value partnering in terms of analyzing some external data, analyzing some data outside of finance, enterprise data. But now the amount of data that's available in terms of your customers, your revenue, in terms of your procurement and supply chain, all the operational data with all the new devices and IoT and the optical recognition and data that is available to human resources, etc. There is rich data available that if you leverage, you can truly participate in value creation. Having a problem-solving mindset. I talked about these problem solvers. They understand your problems, they understand and frame the problems well. They really brainstorm and explore the options, creating rapid prototypes and implementing solutions. Again, essential for finance. Anticipating what is coming around the corner, looking out for what is coming into the future, looking at the scenario planning. Scenario planning has become absolutely critical now where things are changing so quickly. And so the value creation mindset is what is going to take you to that co-creation of value and truly having impact and moving you towards business partnering. That is the future. And I just want to say, all of those who are embarking on the Cgma studies, on your CIMA studies, clearly addresses that gap. It is the perfect solution as far as what I'm trying to create, what my team is trying to create, is to enable professionals to continue on the journey from their business partnering to value partnering. The combination of those digital skills combined with technical business people and leadership skills, that is what is going to solve the problems that we are facing with regards to the skill gap, the new mindsets, the new skill sets that are required. I'm here with you all on this journey, supporting you. So if any of you need any information, please reach out to me. You can email me directly if you have any questions on skills of the future. How do we go about developing these skill sets? That is what I'm here for. So thank you very much. I'm really excited that you're joining us on this journey. And I will hand you over to the next speaker now. Thank you again for joining.
Thank you, Ash. That was a great introductory speech. I would like to invite Astrid Zakrzewska to her main speech today. Astrid, we can see your slide deck. Great.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Welcome everyone. It's a pleasure being here, and I would like to go with you through one of the topics that plays important role nowadays when making strategic decisions, how to evaluate strategic decisions. And we CFO people, we finance people in general are quite often heavily involved in such decisions. As Naomi mentioned, I've been with CIMA since 2005. I'm a teacher for various CIMA topics, but I'm a leading tutor for CIMA CFO program, about which my colleagues from PwC Academy will tell you more, and also CIMA representatives will tell you more. And as I said, today I want to show you how we both in CIMA and how we finance people should approach strategy. So what does it mean when somebody asks you when strategy is successful? Well, you can say strategy is successful that when it maximizes value for shareholders. But again, it's a very vague answer. Does it mean we are generating profit, or are we allowing for the share prices to go up, or are we retaining funds? What does it really mean, maximize value for shareholders? So maybe a successful strategy is strategy that allows to gain and sustain competitive advantage. But again, pretty vague in a sense of, okay, are we going to be number one in terms of the market share? Are we going to be a price leader? What does it mean, gaining and sustaining competitive advantage? So maybe nowadays in pandemic world, I want to say post-pandemic world, but unfortunately I cannot say this. Maybe successful strategy will be the strategy that will allow us to survive. Many companies are struggling nowadays with liquidity problems. Companies that never had such problems, now they are facing with decisions regarding operating risk. How should I restructure my operations in order to reduce the impact of fixed costs? Or maybe successful strategy is a strategy that considers trends on the market. But again, if I'm considering trends on the market, I'm going to be a follower, not a creator, not an innovator. So maybe the strategy that considers my strengths, weaknesses, or maybe the strategy that brings various benefits to various groups, or maybe that strategy, guys, let's face it, I can list like 20 or 30 more statements. What does a successful strategy mean? Therefore, what I want to concentrate on today is what does successful strategy mean to me? And I love this model, and I really mean it. All my students, all my clients know that I'm a big fan of this SAF model. Successful strategy is strategy that is suitable. Suitable to what? To the situation identified in strategic analysis. Because ladies and gentlemen, let's face it, despite the fact that we need to act very quickly, we finance people need to have a very good knowledge about what is happening in my company now, but also what is happening outside the company. And I'm talking about doing a detailed environmental analysis. I'm talking about not eco-analysis, not in terms of green analysis, but what is happening in my political situation, economic situation of the country, what are the social trends, but also what are the forces prevailing in my industry, what are the trends that are going to be in my industry. And suitable also means, it allows to sustain or improve competitive position. So somehow I need all the time to benchmark myself to other players on the market, to other players in the industry. But successful strategy also needs to be acceptable. Acceptable not only to key shareholders or to shareholders. Simply, I will have to identify key stakeholders, various parties that somehow are influencing decisions being taken by the company and that are somehow interested in my operations. So at the end of the day, if I am to launch a new strategy, I would expect key stakeholders, called key players sometimes, to participate in this strategy. And last but not least, successful strategy is feasible. It means simply I can do it, I can implement it, I can execute it and evaluate it, hoping that benefits are being generated. And I would like to introduce you, because I like to give real life examples or examples that are sort of translating theory into practice. I would like to introduce you today to PixelWiz. Pixelwiz is the company that creates and sells video games. By the way, those of you who are taking CIMA exams, maybe the session strategic case study exam, know that this is our hero for November and February session. So all the exams on strategic level will be based on this scenario. So this is a company that creates and sells games. We are a listed company. That's very important for us. And we are offering various games that can be played on various hardware. We can play it on PC, we can play it on console, we can play it on our smartphone. Very few information is given because let's face it, we don't have time to go through 20 or 30 pages scenario so that you know the company. I'll try to bring the company to you as much as I can during my presentation. But what is relevant to me is my vision, our vision of the company. Our company will always be the best game developer, both in real and virtual world. That makes a difference, real world and virtual world. Our mission, we exist to attach the talented people who create virtual worlds that enable gamers to immerse themselves in exciting realities. Pixelwiz creates exciting places to work and to play. This mission statement shows us how important people are for us. Our staff. It means they are also source of creating value for the shareholders, for the company. And last but not least, we are told about values of the company. We care about imagination, basically creativity, innovation, commitment, and we do care about teamwork. Very few information given so far. Let's go further. Also, I'm going to here to give you financial statements, consolidated financial statements of the company. They are prepared based on international financial reporting standards, selected information. I'm not going to go with you through the whole annual report, but what I can see briefly here is that our company is generating profits. In fact, we are generating more profits on a yearly basis, which is pretty good. And I can see that we're profitable and growing profitability exists on operating profit level, profit before tax level as well. So good start. Then looking very quickly at consolidated statement of financial position, the first thing that comes to my head, I'm a finance person as well. I used to be an auditor, I used to be finance director, so I'm looking at money. So basically, okay, we do have cash. Why it's important? Before even knowing what I'm going to ask you to do, if we have cash, it means that, well, we do have funds, at least initial investment can be financed by ourselves. But also what I care about is, do we have borrowings? Yes, we do have borrowings, but I can see that we do have around 26% of gearing ratio. It means for me that we do have space for more debt. If strategy is to be financed, not by our retained earnings on cash or by increase in equity, still we do have space for more debt, which is good. But there is one thing that really worries me. I know I'm a listed company and I don't know what is the shareholding structure at this stage. But what worries me are retained earnings. Why am I saying this? Because if you see, we are generating pretty high profits of $2 billion W dollars, whatever W dollars are, and my retained earnings are at a pretty low level. What does it mean to me? It means, high dividends are being paid out. Why it's relevant for me? I will come back to this to show you why these three elements are relevant for me. So, you are CFO, let's assume you are CFO or you are senior financial manager of Pixelwiz. I hate somebody who created this company. It's going to break my tongue, but nevertheless. You received an email from Ilana, our CEO, and she says that, well, as you know, we are really struggling not only to maintain our financial results, but also to maintain our position as one of the world's leading game developers. I will go step by step to give you some hints. Okay, yes, we are able to maintain our position, our financial results, but it means she could have expected greater financial results. It means that either we do have pressure from our employees, cost of base goes up, or our revenues are not growing as much as expected. We don't know this. But also, if we're struggling to maintain position as one of the world's leading game developers, it could potentially mean that this sexy industry is becoming pretty crowded, in a sense that there are new entrants coming in, they're pushing us to reduce costs, also to reduce prices, but also customers have much more choice, much bigger choice to choose from other providers of games. And Ilana goes further. Yesterday, I met Mr. X, Dean of Medicine Faculty of Westland University. We operate in Westland. As you can see, we had Westland dollars. That's some kind of country. We don't know where it is. I can imagine that it's going to be either Europe or US or maybe Asia. I don't know. Nevertheless, he proposed to establish a closer cooperation with our company in order to develop some games that could be used to help patients in improving their physical and mental weaknesses. Well, first impression could be like, okay, video games for people who need help in improving their physical and mental weaknesses. Come on, video games are more for young people, for younger generations, not for such target group. But nevertheless, let's go further. He's open to various forms of cooperation, including joint venture. Those of you who have ever cooperated with university, and I'm also a lecturer of one of the largest economic universities in Poland, know that it's very difficult to cooperate with them, not because they are hard to cooperate. It's because of regulatory regime. If you are a higher educator, at least in Poland, that's the case. So we are to have a meeting later today to discuss his proposal in details. However, I have mentioned the idea to Wihu, our chief commercial officer, and he just said, what a strange idea. We should concentrate on young generations and they are the future for our industry. This strategy will not be a successful one. I love such statements. Throw it into the bin. Very quick evaluation of strategy. And Ilana asks you for help. Could you please provide me your initial thoughts on how we should evaluate this strategy? And I have to admit to you, ladies and gentlemen, that this is sort of a typical scenario you could expect to see on the exam on strategic level, where you are asked to evaluate the strategy, tell how to approach the strategy. So, what alternatives do we have when evaluating this strategy? I'm a finance person, so I can simply say, if net present value is positive, go for it. Simple as that. But if you think about what Ash said about the role of finance people, we are not number cruncher anymore. And let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are heavily involved in finance know that even such a sophisticated method of evaluation as net present value can be manipulated. And I'm not talking about fraudulent manipulation, but I'm talking about the fact that we're talking about long term. We don't know what is going to happen. We can adopt different assumptions. So basically, let's face it, tell me what NPV you want, and I'll give you that NPV. So I don't think that this is what Ilana would expect from a CFO. So maybe another approach would be go for advantages of this strategy and disadvantages of this strategy. But I have to admit, at this level, we're a little bit too senior to say, oh, this is a nice strategy. It's easy to calculate. It's easy to follow, or it's difficult to implement. Not this approach, not at this level. So maybe the third approach, I'm promising I'm coming to an end, is to expand the idea presented by Ziu, our chief commercial officer. But what's the risk? Being a fellow of CIMA, I strongly follow our code of ethics. And one of the principles that is embedded in our code of ethics is objectivity. So I would expect from every finance person to be as objective as possible. And there is a risk that if I'm stuck with the idea presented with my chief commercial officer, I will very much concentrate only on this aspect. Objectivity it means that you must be unbiased, that you are presenting, very objective evaluation of what is really happening. So you need to look at various aspects of a particular issue. So what I'm recommending is let's go for SAF approach. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, some of you will say, hey, Astrid, that's undoable. We don't have any financial information. We don't know what is going to be the form of cooperation. We don't know too much about the company. I will be helping you with this information about the company, don't you worry. But still, you want me to give your initial thoughts very quickly, because I expect that if Ilana is having a meeting this evening with representatives of the university, she's not going to wait 2 weeks. But still, that's why I'm using this SAF model, because it gives you a very structured, logical approach to evaluating strategy. It allows you to concentrate not only on financial aspects, but asks you to look at the strategy from this broader, comprehensive perspective and be a real business partner to everyone in the organization. So, suitability. I'm told nothing about our objectives, but I know one thing, that when I'm evaluating suitability, I'm asking myself, does this strategy suit me now? Will it help me to improve my position? So step number one would be go for strategic objectives. What are the strategic objectives of the company? If you are told nothing, or you don't know precisely the strategic objectives of the company, you can say to yourself, hey, I'm a listed company. I'm a profit-making business. Even if I wasn't a listed company, if I weren't a listed company, still I'm a profit-making business. So maximization of shareholders' wealth could be my strategic objective. Will this strategy help me achieve this objective? Well, I'm going to expand to a new market, and I'm not talking about new geographical market. I'm talking, in fact, about targeting completely new group of customers. The market is going to be less saturated, and let's face it, it's a growing market. And I'm not talking only about elderly people who need help in their rehabilitation process. More and more young people are having strokes, are having some neurological problems. And it turned out, and we created by Nintendo is a very good example of a company that is cooperating with hospitals, with rehabilitation physiotherapists in providing support to the ones who need it. So if I'm entering a growing market, which is less saturated, I could expect that profitability could go up. So potentially, yes, it will help to maximize my shareholders' wealth. But also, if I'm talking about cooperation with a leading university in the country, it could boost up my reputation. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to know what is the approach, social approach to video gamers now. You close your eyes, you think video games, you see poor kids, spending their hours, days, weeks playing video games. We're talking even about this addiction to video games. We're talking about introducing regulations in various countries that would somehow limit time that kids can spend in front of internet or in front of a computer. So if I'm going to cooperate with a leading university to create something which is beneficial for the society at large, not for pleasure, but for rehabilitation, my reputation potentially could go up. Potentially more people would be interested in buying shares of the company. So again, if the profits are not boosted, then the value of shares can go up, and again, the shareholders can improve their wealth. But also, if I don't have enough information from strategic objectives, I can go to my vision. And when evaluating suitability, I should ask myself a question. Does this strategy help me achieve my vision to be the best game developer? And here I put in both, in real and virtual world. And I'm not talking about creating some fantasy games, some, artificial objects. No, I'm talking about using games in real world to help real people overcome their problems. Our mission, attract talented people. Well, again, if I'm going to cooperate with leading university in the country, I would hope that students from this university would be willing to work for me, would be willing to share experience, and simply, again, my reputation would go up. I would attract best people, who would have great ideas, my revenue profits will go up. What are my core values? I briefly mentioned to you that one of the values were imagination, the second one was commitment. And if you expand information about PixWiz, you know that imagination, it means creates the places in which gamers wish to spend their free time. And ladies and gentlemen, if you have older parents or if you have people in your family or friends who are somehow affected by certain illnesses, you know that they are not so active anymore, that they spend a lot of time, sitting and sometimes doing nothing. So if they can be entertained and at the same time the rehabilitation process will go on, then it's perfect combination. Commitment. We want to create a place where talented people wish to work. It's very closely connected to our mission statement. And if you think about young generations, a lot of you will say bad things about young generations. Oh, they're lazy. They want to have work-life balance. But, being a mother of two students who are 20 years old, around 20s, I know that you should always blame parents first. If you are saying the kids are bad, where were you, my dear mother, my dear father, when bringing up the children? So I know that there is a group of young people who really care about the future of the planet, who are very open to ethical issues, who are very open to helping others. So in fact, I can attract completely new group of workers who care more about non-business issues that are playing more and more important role. But also, when you evaluate suitability, I told you that you need to do strategic analysis. So in fact, you should create something called SWOT analysis, SWOT model. You need to think about our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So maybe when evaluating strategy, you don't concentrate on such high-level issues as vision, mission, core values, but let's go to our weaknesses and ask yourself a question. Will this strategy help me overcome my weaknesses? Will this strategy help me mitigate risks that exist on the market? And again, I know that you don't have the whole pre-seen material. By the way, you can download it from CIMA website to see the whole history of PixWiz. But we are told that we are dependent upon continuing success of small number of game franchises. In case of game franchises, we are talking about new versions of games that had been issued in the past. So basically, we need to create new versions and we're heavily dependent. So we don't have too much in our pipeline. That's a problem for us. Second problem, development of exciting games may be inhibited by the limitations of the hardware. Let's face it, if you are playing super sophisticated computer game, you want to have these special visual effects. The more effects you have, the better hardware you need to have. So sometimes our dream game cannot be played on certain hardware. Let's limit the expansion of our company. But again, if you think about our new strategy that we are thinking about implementing, let's face it, you are not going to need super sophisticated hardware. In fact, something that was a limitation for you will not be a limitation anymore, because for people who are having physical or mental weaknesses or having problems, who are going through a rehabilitation process, the more simple the hardware, the better. Also, if you think about targeting elderly people, some of them, maybe they do have a lot of money to spend on super sophisticated hardware, but will they be able, with all the respect to them, to manage it properly? So keep it simple. Such strategy could overcome this problem. And our suppliers of hardware become our competitors. I love one company and I really mean it. And I always tell my students about this company. It's Philips. If you read about history of Philips, you will see that the company is running away from competition in a very clever way. They used to be associated with home appliances, hair dryers, washing machine, TVs. But nowadays they are saying, no, we are not going to operate in a really crowded business where competition is very high, when there is a risk of price wars. Let's go further. And now when you think about Philips, We're talking about intelligent cities. We are talking about very sophisticated software and hardware used for monitoring patients in the hospital. So maybe it's high time for me, Pixelwiz, to jump out from this crowd and somehow differentiate myself. So these are the elements I would consider when evaluating suitability. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to give you an answer right away whether my strategy is suitable. But Ilana, my CEO, she's not asking me to give her immediate answer whether the strategy is suitable, acceptable, or feasible. She asks me how we should approach evaluating this strategy. Acceptability. And as I mentioned, I need to concentrate on key players, key stakeholders. And here I'm talking about the players who are having high power on me. They can stop my decisions. They can, somehow influence my decisions being taken, but also they do care about my operations. They do care about my strategy significantly. And here I need to differentiate several groups. First group would be shareholders. Well, when you are a shareholder, and again, I don't have information whether I'm talking about majority shareholders or minority shareholders. I have various groups of shareholders, but immediately when evaluating a strategy, what comes to my head is as follows. Yes, if NPV, net present value, is positive, they should accept the strategy because hopefully more wealth will be generated to them in real terms, not paper profit will be created, but cash will be generated for them. But it could be the case that the decision will somehow impact my current dividend policy. So I showed you at the beginning, and I'm referring back to one of the first slides. If I'm paying out majority of my profits, if not all of my profits, in a form of dividend, and I'm to come to my shareholders and say to them, hi guys, sorry, no more divvies for the next 20 years, or no more divvies for next 5 years. Oops, they could be very upset. So I need to consider what impact the strategy will have on my dividend policy. Or I should also consider the fact that maybe some of my investors will be unhappy with this idea because they have invested in a business that is creating sophisticated video games for young people, and they are not interested in old gamers. So it could be the case that some investors will leave, but I will attract new investors who are more long-term strategic investors. There's a whole group of investors nowadays whom we call so-called green investors. They do care about investing in the projects that care about sustainability, and they do care about environment. So maybe there is a group of investors who would be interested in my project. But also I need to consider key staff. And ladies and gentlemen, always we need to differentiate between board of directors and key staff as other core employees, because let's face it, both their level of power and their level of interest would be different. Why am I saying about board of directors? Remember what our chief commercial director said? I'm not interested. I'm interested in young generations. So it could be the case that some representatives of board of directors will be treated as restraining forces. They will be against the strategy. So even if the strategy is successful from financial perspective, they will not be happy to go for it. So they will be an obstacle. So I need to make sure that we do have relevant skills in current board of directors to manage such a new venture. They will have, I need to make sure that they will be willing to enter into new area. Also, I need to check whether they have experience in managing such forms of corporations as joint ventures, because it could be the case that never had such experience in the past, and they will not know how to manage basically two entities. Also, I need to think about people who are actually directly involved in creating games. These are game producers, game designers, game artists, level designers, various people. Because in fact, if I come to them with an idea, hey guys, no more super sophisticated games whereby you have fight, war, etc. we need to create games that will help people who need it. Are they going to be interested? Will they have such skills? Will they be willing to sacrifice some super sexy special effects instead of having super sexy special effects, maybe more games for intelligence? I don't know. But also, I'm stepping into cooperation with the university. And as I said before, I cannot forget about them, especially I cannot forget about admin and support staff, because they need to have willingness to make things happen. If our university in Westland is not a private university, it's a public school, meaning owned by the government or somehow controlled by the government, they may have certain restrictions. They are non-for-profit organizations. They may have different objectives. We are a profit-making business. We need decisions be taken very quickly. In their case, weeks, months for the procedures to be introduced, follow, agreed. So I need to make sure that there is a group of people, not only professors, lecturers, students, but people who will be willing to support this initiative from inside the university. And of course, professors, lecturers, students, are they going to be able to cooperate with non-medical staff? Because let's face it, they will have to translate medical issues to non-medical, to IT people, to graphic designers. It could be very difficult. It could lead to frustration. So again, 3 key groups I would look at: shareholders, key staff, and university members. And last, feasibility. As I said before, feasibility means, can we do it? Is it doable? So I need to put some kind of structure into my can we do it? So of course, I'm a finance person, so immediately financial issues comes to my head. Step 1, what sources of finance I'm going to use to finance this project? What sources of finance are available? Should I go for really retained earnings? Oh, cost of equity is always the highest cost of capital. So maybe if I apply retained earnings, not only I will lose cash for other opportunities that may appear, but also net present value might turn out to be negative. So maybe I will go for issue of new shares. But new shares to whom? To existing shareholders or to new shareholders? The good thing is I'm a listed company. I have this great opportunity either to issue shares or maybe to issue more debt. As I told you before, we have low gearing, 26% is really low. If you look at the industry, it would turn out that they are much more leveraged, around 30%. So maybe bonds, or maybe, ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about introducing a product that is going to help society, various societies. So maybe I should ask for some grants from, I don't know, maybe European Union, or for some investment, European banks, or maybe from the state. So some subsidized loans could also be available. Knowing how I want to finance it, I need to consider the overall impact on cost of capital, because when evaluating the project from financial perspective, I could go for using current weighted average cost of capital. I can use current WACC if the risk profile of the project is the same as risk profile of other projects, too, if the project is going to be financed in the same structure as current projects. I don't know. So maybe WACC will not be relevant. So I should go for project-specific cost of capital, taking into account how I'm going to finance it, what returns are expected from such project. Or maybe I should go again for proxy company. Maybe I should look for Nintendo, who has created this Wii product and is selling them as part of the rehabilitation process. What impact it's going to have on share price? Because let's face it, if I'm talking about investing in new project, in the short-term perspective, the share price might go down, market capitalization might go down, it might have impact on various ratios. I have borrowing, so it could impact my covenants as well. And in the long term, maybe after initial drop in share price, then I could expect a significant increase or steady increase in share price. I need to try to somehow speculate what impact it will have. Impact on gearing, as I mentioned before, I still have that capacity. Impact on existing covenants, maybe somehow I'm restricted to make such investments. So all these elements I need to consider when talking about financial feasibility, technical or technological feasibility, hardware, software. Well, in case of software, I do have experience in creating games. In case of hardware, I do cooperate with various suppliers because that's the business model. That's how video games companies are cooperating. They create software, you have a supplier who is creating a hardware. So it shouldn't be a problem. Internet, should the games be connected to internet, or maybe taking into account the fact of cyber attacks, threat, maybe I should create games that could be downloaded and can be used offline by elderly people or the ones who need it. Artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality. Do I have experience in this aspect? Well, if you're having neurological problems, you could use virtual reality or augmented reality to help people in the rehabilitation process. So do I have experience in these areas? Another element of feasibility is so-called social feasibility. And I'm very keen always about the social feasibility aspect. Social feasibility is different to acceptability because I'm talking about how my proposal will be accepted, how will be perceived, seen by society at large. And well, I think that in this case, it could have positive impact on society. And also, there is a growing market. Games are not alien to them, to these people. So it's not going to be something completely new, but also there is a chance for overcoming the social disconnection between older generations or people who are having health problems with younger generations. In fact, we could use games for something that is beneficial for both groups. And of course, when you do all this, what I would expect to present to Ilana at the end of the day, when we really evaluate the strategy, is to make sure that we provide clear recommendations based on the analysis. So after each point, you should clearly be able to say that, yes, the strategy is suitable, no, the strategy is not acceptable, or if the strategy is not acceptable, then what should we do to make it acceptable for a given group? Definitely, it's just a starting point. So a lot of things will require further analysis, further clarification, obtaining more information. But please make sure that this process, this step number 2, doesn't last ages, because there is a risk that if you are waiting with your answer, even to university, somebody else might come into the university and say, hey guys, we have a solution for you and we're open for cooperation. And I'm begging you about one thing. Do not recommend asking specialists for advice. Of course, you will heavily involve specialists, but don't say that in order to evaluate something, we need to go to the lawyers or we need to go to marketing specialists. No, you CFOs, you finance people are expected to have a very broad knowledge. And this is, I would come back to what Ash said. We are not number crunchers anymore. You are having the industry knowledge. You are having the knowledge about the business. You need to be a real partner. So step out from your comfort zone to help evaluate strategies, to help make various decisions. If you have any questions, I am open to answer them either after the meeting, or you can contact me directly or via Academy or via CIMA. And for now, basically, that's it for me. Thank you very much. Hope you learned something new. Hope it helped you to make certain strategic decisions. Thank you, Noemi.
Thank you, Astrid, very much. It was a pleasure. And I would like to invite our business development team representatives, Piotr Głowacki and Maciek Szczygieł. They will show you where and how you can gain more knowledge and skills of this sort if you're interested. And if you want to participate in a course with Astrid, this is the best place to do it.
Hello, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Pleasure to be joining this session this afternoon. Thank you, Astrid, for sharing your insights. I guess very great example of complexity which are embedded in the CIMA exams going forward. So I have a pleasure to share to you some of the high-level insights associated with one of our most premium offerings globally, which is the CIMA CFO program. So my objective is share with you high-level insights of the program structure, as well as invite you to listen to two of my colleagues who will share a bit more of the information on the program, colleagues who actually went and bit on that journey, finished with a very one CIMA 3 hours long case study exam. So as I said, CIMA CFO program is our most premium offer globally. In Europe, we have a pleasure to partner with the PwC academies in Poland, Romania, and elsewhere for the program, which is a sole provider for this program in this part of the world. And Astrid, who gave you an insightful lecture on one of the strategic level subject in CIMA, is actually the head teacher of this. So whoever of you will take a decision to join on board this program will be spending much more time with Astrid on that. So I guess that as the most premium offering that we have, the CIMA CFO program is a blended learning experience program that's from one side allow you in the very short time frame. By short, I mean from the day that you submit your application, which will be reviewed by our tutors, until the day that you take one exam and have results, is between 3 to 9 months to have that result. And the beauty of this program is that each and every participant of the program is reviewed individually for the skills gaps, right? So experienced CIMA tutor take lots of time upfront the program with each and every of you to assess the skills gaps. And then all the participants, CFOs, managing directors, C-suite leaders who are on board, they spend both times personally with the materials provided by our partner PwC to study on this particular skills gap they have, which are powered by a couple of days long sessions. And these sessions used to be face-to-face in various places in Europe. However, right these days with COVID, not only our examinations were shifted online, but all classes like the ones which are part of this program are delivered through the online environment. So the program, and I wanted to touch about our CIMA Cgma competency framework. All the skills and competencies that are being delivered in this program are circulating about our Cgma competency framework. And I would encourage each and every of you to download this document. It's a freeware document online, comprises of the technical skills, business skills, people leadership, as well as the digital skills. And by the way, this is a backbone for everything that will be taught in the course of the CIMA CFO program. 70 pages long A4 document where you can see all the competences in the alphabetical order. However, focusing primarily on the CIMA CFO program, it's focusing on the granular essence of CIMA, which is the CIMA strategic level. 3 subjects, Enterprise 3, where you can be exposed to topics like strategy development, implementation, change management, digital strategy. Pretty much a good example what Astrid showed you in her lecture before, as well as P3 subject, which is primarily around risk management, internal control, corporate governance, financial risk. And the last subject, F3, which is all about a financial strategy. So again, to sum up, the program is tailored for CFOs, the C-suite leaders, people with at least 10 levels of senior level professional experience, which is being assessed upfront the program. So now I guess I would like to invite my two colleagues who actually went through this program in the past, just to share a couple of sentences around the experience on this program. Bartek, are you with us?
Hi, Piotr. Can you hear me well? How is connection? Can you hear me well?
Bartek?
Now, I guess when I look at the group, I mean, I guess many of you are very senior managers who've known finance, who worked in finance for many, many years or even decades. That was a bit my own experience. I mean, I've done almost 15 years of financial or kind of consulting type of experience. So I kind of knew finance quite well. I did also educational qualification, which, you know, was also around finance. So when I was approached initially by CIMA, I asked myself, you know, is it really worth it? You know, is it really worth it to invest, you know, this time? And when I kind of look at the program, I think I actually found maybe 2 or 3 things very attractive. And one is the program very much, you know, structures your thinking around, you know, what are kind of key topics, key areas strategically, especially when it comes to finance and not kind of the role CFOs, but any finance professional may play in an organization. And again, I mean, I've done my, you know, finance degree many years ago. So I had lots of pieces and bits of information. I had also lots of experience, but I mean, no really, you know, structured, coordinated, I would say cleanup exercise went through my brain, you know, after all of those, you know, years of experience. And I think, you know, this program actually allowed me to kind of, you know, structure this thinking in a very concise way. It's also a very short program. So I mean, as you may know, I mean, CIMA usually takes, you know, between 3 or 4 years if you start from the scratch. This is, you know, if you're really focused, you can probably do this, you know, within 3-4 months. And then last point, which I'm going to come back at, it was the end. I mean, I think there was really a very tangible and practical application of what I learned through the program. Now, when it comes to, you know, how it was organized, I mean, my program was very much, you know, real time, you know, phase 3D. So we would actually gather in a room with Astrid, who was one of our tutors, and discuss, you know, all of the cases and prepare work for the exam. So it was probably a very different experience that you will have. But what I found out, and I think it's probably still possible to replicate, you know, in the online version, that actually do build a network. You know, so I still stay in touch with those individuals with whom I went through this, you know, 3 months of almost like a boot camp, you know, very intense training. That was also, you know, a very, very useful experience. And Astrid, I mean, you probably heard her talk. I mean, she's a very diligent tutor who knows, you know, all kinds of cases for all kinds of industries. I mean, and has the very practical knowledge of finance, but also very theoretical if it's needed, right? So I think, you know, Astrid can essentially, as she said, fill some of the gaps which you may have not had the chance to actually fill before, you know, in terms of your careers, if you maybe came into finance from some other field. So that's also something which I find very useful. So some parts of the program were almost obvious. It was just saying, yes, of course, I mean, that's what I do on a daily basis. But, you know, some other parts of it were just maybe not like a, you know, new discoveries of the type of Columbus made when he reached America, but it was still kind of a very useful refresher. And Astrid could just could go very deeply and very patiently through all of those, you know, topics. Now, was it really worth it? I think yes. I mean, and I will talk from my experience about maybe 2 or 3 examples, and maybe also mention maybe 2 or 3 anecdotes. So one of my friends who actually went through the program, actually he got a CFO job after the program, because, you know, he essentially, after he went to the program, he successfully did the exam. He put this on his LinkedIn, and he got a couple of, you know, very interesting offers. So you know, having this stamp of approval of having, you know, CIMA or Cgma can usually make a big difference. I mean, first of all, in terms of maybe opening some doors, giving you this understanding that, you know, you are actually a finance person by experience, but also by training. And CIMA is a quite rigorous program, and, you know, it does take usually a couple of iterations to take the exam and go through it. so it's not a given. And of course, I mean, even if you have a job offer, I think, having CIMA usually, does give you a bit of, percentage uptick in terms of, potential compensation, negotiation, leverage, whatever you want to call it, right? So, I mean, it's again, I talk from maybe not from my own experience, but maybe from the experience of a friend of mine. Now, when it comes to me, I mean, once I went through the program, it was part of my kind of key talent program within my organization. I currently work for UBS, so a global investment / wealth management bank. And in parallel, I was actually given a project where, it wasn't given to me because I was going through CIMA. It was probably given to me because, some people up there thought that I had the horsepower to take it forward. But it was very interesting because essentially, on some of the key meetings or prep work for the project, I was essentially able to take some of the materials, open a couple of pages, and almost copy and paste, or if you will, plagiarize CIMA and say, hey, that's actually how we can approach this problem and drive the resolution. So it was extremely practical. And of course, if you stay within the same company, usually people do things the same way as others have been doing for the past 20 years. Again, coming from CIMA, having this kind of a bit fresher point of view actually helps you to bring something new and also position yourself as someone who is a bit of a thought leader. And again, I mean, it's extremely practical and tangible. I'm going to probably shut up here. Again, happy to answer any questions. And I know it was probably a bit too peachy and rosy, so Nicholas, maybe you can talk about the negatives, because people may think that we are just being paid for that, but
exactly
it was my question.
Exactly, this is what I had in mind. Hello guys, also, and welcome to this event. First of all, it's my pleasure really being invited today, and seeing lovely faces from the past. Look, I'm not going to repeat basically what Bartek said. I mean, I fully agree in every word. I really believe that overall CIMA, but also the CFO program is really definitely worth it. I would say that study sucks for sure, and it's something that really puzzled me for many weeks. But as I said, despite the additional time, despite turning potentially your work office to a study hall, definitely worth every effort, because the feeling of really overcoming your boundaries is one of a kind, and definitely create a completely new future for you, and broaden up the horizons of the thinking that you might have. Because okay, I mean, the program per se, of course, goes through the curriculum that we have on that level, but I believe that the essential part here is the way that you structure your thinking. I mean, now that I had the chance also to really hear Astrid again going through the even highlighting Porter's 5 forces, or even the SAFT model. It's something that I managed to really embed also on my thinking. And I'm a finance professional anyhow. I have studied many years ago, but still being able to really implement and embed that into your daily communications, I think that's the important thing, and that's the practical element that you get from this program. And that's something that I have continued, of course, employing and utilizing, but also just because during Barter's also speech, I was really trying to really read some of the chat communications. Even though if you're not so senior or you're not working so strategic, let's say, projects, still I mean, in the shared service organization and industry, so still, I mean, these kind of practical examples of applying this strategic thinking are indeed useful, and definitely can really be utilized at any level. So I think that's really important to really also get from that. Overall, as I said, I mean, I think it requires a bit of boosting, because I understand that you're also working in the industries, different industries. But for sure, the fact that you will be really devoting personal time with the proper guidance, I think it will pay off. personally, in my company, it's something that had been somehow endorsed by the finance community, especially for senior positions, but not only. We are continuously expanding also to levels even below CFO, level of hierarchy. So it's something that we would like definitely to really endorse. That's definitely an advantage for finance professionals if they want to grow professionally within the company. But not only, because exactly many friends that I've really created, during the this 3-month onboarding session to the program, really managed to really either being promoted in the next couple of months or maximum 1 year, and for sure that really helped them again to be able to couple together with the skills also the hard skills, soft skills, on how they could really envision future. For me personally, this helped me even more, I would say, because it opened up, my academic appetite. Just because, in order just to echo what Ash was telling, in the beginning, and bring a bit of, somehow numbers into the table. He was talking about this untouchable new landscape, right? 90% of the total value. Guys, let me give you, just a few numbers. From 1996. From 6 trillion of untouchable assets, we have moved now 25 years after to almost 74 trillion. So you understand that all our attention is going to be shed exactly to that intangible, new uncharted area. And definitely this requires, new skills, digital skills. And that really gave me, after running the CFO program and going through some of the courses that is offering, of course, and, willing to really develop into more details on the digital landscape. And currently I'm even working on my thesis for, a blockchain concept that I'm working on. So it's something that, as I said, it really broadens your horizons, and that will be, my last note to you. Definitely worth it, definitely give you different perspective, encompassing exactly different dimensions, as Astrid was saying. And I haven't regretted at all, despite, the efforts put behind.
Thanks, Nikos, and thank you, Bartek, for your insight.
Thank you very much. I had some technical issues, so I wasn't able to hear your testimonial. So hopefully you weren't making any jokes about me, recommending you to join this program. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions to the program itself, wanted to get some more information, you can always reach out to myself or my team for more questions. Guys, once again, thank you very much for finding time to join this session and share some of your insights about being a participant of this program. Noemi, up to you.
Thank you. The last part is our Q&A session, and I would like to invite Kasia again to say a couple of words of the next edition of the CFO program and open the session for questions.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Noemi. And thank you all really for your great testimonials. It's so great to hear your genuine opinions about, what you got from the program, but also the full study. How much effort it took, because it's not easy peasy. That's why we are doing this whole program, which is a comprehensive training that I'm going to give you a little bit of practical information now on the upcoming edition. Just bear with me. I'm sharing my screen. All right, so you should see it. Yeah. Okay. So as was mentioned before, we have the great pleasure to cooperate with CIMA here on the CIMA CFO program, and we've been doing that since 2018. So more or less 2 editions per year. Sometimes we even have 3. So now we're running the 9th edition, and the 10th one is upcoming soon. I'm going to tell you about that in a second. So now our roles, the CIMA and PwC's Academy's roles, are clearly defined in the whole program. CIMA is leading this program and is, well, taking care of the verifications of your applications, if you're interested in joining, of all the administrative issues, of payments, of exam, making sure that you're enrolled for it, and of your membership, which follows after completing the one and only exam here on this program. So here you can see the email address. If you're interested to apply for this course, please send a message to CIMA directly. Whereas PwC's Academy is in charge of preparing you to tackle the exam and to pass it with flying colors. So if you have any questions about the training itself, about the preparation, please send us a message, and here you can also see our email address. About this 10th edition, which is the next one that will be preparing you for the exam in May of next year, important information to note is the early bird deadline to apply, which is the end of January. So you still have quite a lot of time to have a CV that you can send to CIMA and to have your application gone through. But I really advise you to take advantage of this early bird deadline. And the full course, as Nikos mentioned, study sucked. Well, it sucks in the sense I understand that there's quite a lot of it, but we are trying to make it more comprehensive and more easy for you actually to go through everything that you need to learn in order to pass the exam. And of course, you're going through the preparation with Astrid, so it's the best that you can have. And we start off with a little bit of a homework to also understand where are your you know, what you are particularly good at, and maybe where are some gaps that we can advise you on what to do a little bit of reading on. We have an intro webinar, which is to take you into understanding the full course and how the exam is structured so that you are prepared. The individual meetings that we have here, the first one is with the trainer, with Astrid, to identify where you are and what we can help you with individually. We want this program also to be quite individual in the sense that all of you are in a little bit different places, or although you're all senior professionals, but we want to make sure that you feel comfortable in this course. And the 3 workshops are dedicated to the study itself. It's a very interactive workshop, even though it's live online. We use a very interactive platform to make sure that you're as engaged as possible. The first 2 parts are dedicated to the strategic level itself, to the 3 pillars there, so that you can understand everything, gather your knowledge, your experience, and your thoughts. And then the 3rd workshop is dedicated to the exam itself, to the strategic case study, where we tackle the pre-scene dedicated to a given session, where you can work on some mock exams. And you have the opportunity to sit an actual mock exam in very similar conditions to the actual exam that you will be taking. And then you will get feedback on it, and you will be able to go through that feedback on an individual meeting again. So as you can see, there's a lot of different parts to it. We try to make it the best we can. And hopefully our past participants can also agree to that. We have them here. And yeah, so this is, I guess, all from me. I really encourage you to, to gather yourself and apply for this 10th edition that is upcoming. Please bear in mind that we have a limited number of seats, so the sooner you get in touch with us, the better. And now over to you guys and to a Q&A session. So if any questions arise regarding either the program or what Ash or Astrid said today, please feel free to put it in the Q&A part in the box, and we will answer that question.
Thanks, Kasia. We actually received a question from one of our participants in the chat box. The question is, what advice would you give to someone that wants to improve their business skills without having much business exposure, for instance, when you work in shared services? And I would like to ask kindly Bartek to answer this question, if you may.
I think it's a good one. I guess, I mean, it's a bit like, can you learn how to swim without swimming ever or touching the water? But I think, I mean, in this case, I think it's possible to some extent. I mean, like if you, and of course, it all depends what you mean by business, right? Because I mean, the shared service sector, business is actually, the operational activity of maintaining stability of whatever is being delivered. I mean, on the finance side, operations, business. So, that's essentially, the question of definition. But I guess, in terms of this program, I think, I mean, as mentioned, you have the ability to network with lots of individuals, on the CIMA CFA program, right? So, just by definition, if you want, you can actually, explore and, nurture those relationships, understand, what are, your colleagues in other industries, maybe a bit closer to the front line are doing, what are kind of the key concerns. I mean, believe me, they are not that different from, what you may probably experience in the kind of, SCC sector anyway. But this is just one way of kind of understanding, what are kind of key topics there. Second one is, I mean, in terms of the case studies, I mean, they touch any business, So I think when I did the business case, it was about the recording industry and some of the revenue lines being at risk, and then what are the mitigation actions which can be taken there. But I think, last but not least, the best way again to learn that is just actually start doing this at some point. And I guess, if you ask me personally, I would say the SEC sector is evolving. I mean, so, if you look at what has been, say, in some of the centers, say 10 years ago, and now, I mean, there's a big gap in meaning there's just more responsibility, front to back ownership. And I guess, this evolution probably continues. So if you stay where you are, I mean, there's a chance that you'll actually be able to drive some of the topics. But then if you want to really test yourself and, test if you can swim, again, CIMA can help you to get a good job, to actually do that.
Thanks, Bartek. I appreciate that. We don't have any more questions, I guess, but we'll stay online for a couple of minutes if someone is interested in finding out more from our participants.
Maybe one thing, if I can ask, I mean, again, as mentioned, my pitch was maybe a bit too rosy. Again, it's lots of work, right? So for those couple of months or up to half a year, you need to really prioritize. I mean, I use my vacation time for studying. So it is, again, quite draining. And I guess, when we had those sessions also in 3D, just to enable the networking, I mean, we would usually go out and essentially party together, as a group, which would, even combine the effect of being, exhausted. But it was good fun. And in the end, I mean, I think it was worth it from my point of view.
Okay, I think we've run out of time. Thank you so much for attending, and a huge thank you to our panelists and guests. Again, the recording will be available to all attendees, and it will be sent to you pretty soon, I hope, by our team. So look out for the email. If you want to contact us, please email, as Kasia said, either the Academy or CIMA directly. Thank you so much and have a nice evening.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Guys, thank you.
you.
Bye-bye.